You're about to hear an interview segment from a past edition of The Guitar Show with Andy Ellis. Now here's the interview.
Tonight's featured artist is Kelly Jo Phelps, who, in addition to being an ace fingerstyle guitarist and singer-songwriter, is a lap slide virtuoso and one of the few contemporary players to apply steel guitar technique to a flat-top acoustic. Phelps's restless creativity is evident in his 8 solo albums, and he has an uncanny ability to put a fresh spin on a song every time he plays it. I recently interviewed Phelps about his new solo instrumental album, Western Belle. In a moment, we'll hear excerpts from our conversation as well as cuts from this musically adventurous record. But first, let's hear a track from Phelps's 1999 album, Shine-Eyed Mr. Zen. Featuring his amazing lap slide guitar playing, this is Hobo's Son.
One cold summer night, Sally slept away. Open wide, not a word to say. Oh, the luck took its toll, I can't blame her now. Not today, no, might be here tomorrow. Not today, might be here tomorrow. She knew better fare when a girl at home. Hope for a settled life, not this world alone. Oh, let my prayer be heard and guide me on the way. I'm not today, no, might be here tomorrow. Not today, might be here tomorrow. Been 3 years and change since I held him here. Up and down these roads, Lord, I've looked everywhere, and not once have I seen the color of her hair. Oh, not today, I might be here tomorrow. Not today, might be here tomorrow. Not today, might be here tomorrow. Not today, no, might be here tomorrow.
We're listening to Kelly Jo Phelps play Hobo's Son from his 3rd album, Shine-Eyed Mr. Zen. Now we'll hear Phelps discuss his latest record, the solo all-instrumental Western Belle, which features him playing 6 and 12-string guitars as well as lap slide. We join the conversation as Phelps explains how he approached writing and recording Western Belle, the influence free jazz has on this recording, how he felt compelled to explore the guitar in a new way, and how the years he spent playing bass affects his guitar work today. Phelps also discusses the album's title cut, Western Belle, which we'll hear after this first interview clip.
What I really wanted to do was sit down with my guitars and not think about anything, not think about composition, not think about making records or selling records or anything. I wanted to just bury my head and try to lose myself, inside the guitars like I used to years and years ago.
Right.
It seemed much more natural then. I guess, like anybody, I started thinking that I probably had gotten far too caught up in things that were keeping me away from a straight-on pure joy of playing the guitar, particularly. So I sat down to do that, and it was really, I didn't want to think about writing songs or anything. That seemed like one of the stumbling blocks. I just wanted to play, and over the years and years ago, I used to play a lot of kind of free styles of music, so it wasn't something unfamiliar to me. And I knew that sensation of not knowing what was going to be played next, but just trying to maintain some momentum and also getting out of the way and opening my mind. That's all that stuff I wanted to explore and experience again. And I started recording this stuff just to have a frame of reference, thinking that I could go back and find ideas. I mean, this is kind of an old school way of composing out of an improvisational text point,
Right.
Just go back and see, well, that sounded cool, maybe I can build on that. Well, this, but because I didn't want to stop and think about it for too long, certainly initially, I just started recording things, and I made it a kind of a daily work. I've got a little setup in my basement downstairs. So I just started plugging away and seeing how lost I could get in it, and making sure I was recording as I was going, just so I'd have it as a reference point. And a couple of weeks into it, I suppose, when I was listening back to things, I was really digging the front to back, not like there's a good idea,
Right.
It was like, my God, this is really, really, fun and exciting to find, to touch that point or be in contact with it where the momentum was taking care of itself. And I started sharing some of the pieces with a couple of music friends of mine, and sort of like collectively we kind of all decided maybe you ought to think about putting together an instrumental record with this stuff, man.
I was delighted to hear the 12-string featured so much on this record, and the Western Bell. One of the things that surprised me when I sort of dropped the virtual needle on the record and started listening, and the close intervals that you play really take on this otherworldly aspect with the 12-string, because it's like close intervals that are also blown open because of the octave pairs, and I don't even know what the words are for that.
Yeah, right. I guess I don't either, but yeah, isn't that incredible that 12 strings are really wild? Yeah.
And in some cases, maybe you're creating even closer intervals because some of the notes are moved up an octave even while you're playing low lines, and that they rub even more closely. I'm not sure, but there's this aspect of, particularly in Western Bell, that sounds to me like I'm hearing these two very strong lines, and they kind of, the momentum of these lines head where they're going to go, and with such strong momentum that sometimes they produce consonance and sometimes they produce, startling dissonance, but neither line is going to back down. Whereas with standard counterpoint, you kind of like hold the bass line steady when it starts to threaten the melody.
Yeah.
But in this case, you're just going like, there's this locomotive going, I'm not backing down.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's relentless, and I was thinking once again about your bass playing background, that the time that you spent at the bottom of the frequency, you know, in your ensemble at the low register, looking up at the harmony, looking at, you know, how the low notes affect the context of the stuff that's going on top, because we know that if you change the bass note, what's going on top means something different, you know. Right. Or it can, you know, if you're good. And so that awareness must be. In fact, I hear that in a number of your tunes, that this bass line is actually the low. What's going on at the bottom end of the piece on this album is often, in some ways, the most important part of it, because it makes the other. It sort of frames the harmony and the melody.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. That was the most important thing I think I learned from the years I spent playing bass, certainly in the context that I played bass in, because it's all about, you know, that like harmonic motion or melodic motion, and the many ways, you know, that a bass line can, like you said, like either frame a melody or put a melody into motion, or even put a melody into flight. Like, I mean, that's the funny thing about that song, Western Belle, is there's sort of two parts to it, the way that I think of it anyway. Like there's kind of an A part and a B part, and in both cases the melody is really, really simple and very diatonic. Like the first part, you know, the melody, you know, it sounds like an old Civil War tune. Yeah. But the bass line is what's making it move.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not. I mean, that's the part that isn't backing down.
Challenging our notions of musical consonance and dissonance, that was Western Belle, the title track from the latest album by Kelly Joe Phelps. We'll return to our interview with Phelps and hear more of his thought-provoking music after this short break.
The Guitar Show. The Guitar Show. The Guitar Show.
Hope you're enjoying The Guitar Show with Andy Ellis.
Don't forget, you can find out about upcoming shows and hear interview clips from previous shows at www.theguitarshow.com. And while you're there, join our mailing list and be the first to find out about all of the great new things we've got planned. That's www.theguitarshow.com.
Now, let's return to our interview with Kelly Joe Phelps, tonight's featured artist. In our next clip, we'll hear Phelps explain how he strives to incorporate different influences into his playing and the challenges he faces while doing this. We join the conversation at the point where I suggest his tune, Little Family, combines elements of Saul Hoopy, the pioneering Hawaiian guitarist, and avant-garde jazz pianist Cecil Taylor. Following this clip, we'll hear Little Family, and you can judge for yourself. Little Family sounds to me like Saul Hoopy meeting Cecil Taylor.
Wow, that's awesome. I want that on a T-shirt. Great. Oh, that's beautiful.
And I know you have a free jazz background, and so I can feel it rearing its head I think I can feel it. I mean, it's presumptuous for me to say that, that I know what's going on, but I don't, but what I'm sensing is that there is this background that you have that has, in the past, maybe that was what you were playing and pursuing was free jazz, and then, as I understand it, you moved into this other realm of guitar and went through a number of years of working your own repertoire up, building on the tools that we were discussing before, kind of some of the more essential. Well, they're critical to playing guitar. You have to understand these things, and then now you're suddenly emerging. It's kind of like you've climbed up this certain mountaintop, and all of a sudden the trees have stopped. You're above the tree line or something, looking around.
Yeah.
And some of this free jazz is
that's a nice image too, by the way.
Oh, cool. And it must be a little bit, as this was emerging, I mean, it must have been exciting for you because you were going, oh, good, this is something new. That's always a good feeling. But at the same time, it kind of like, am I crazy?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, you couldn't be more right about that. And I mean, I had a particular good friend of mine, another guitar player friend, that I started having conversations with about this music and what I was doing, and I respect this guy a lot. And I mean, I had that exact conversation with him. I had to,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, I need to find out. I mean, what do you think? Is this like something I should be doing, or should I go see a doctor?
Right. Well, the jury may still be out on that,
But I have support now, so I'm okay. No interventions or anything.
Yeah.
And the other thing that it reminds me of too is this idea of being a musician and wanting to both incorporate everything that has influenced me in a strong or positive way. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's certain musicians or certain styles of music that I've always been drawn to.
Right.
Coupled with the creative side of being a musician, which is now how do I project this with my own voice? I mean, that's why I think I'm so honored and tickled by Saul Hoopy and Cecil Taylor being together, because those are two musics that I've always adored.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And to have not set out to find those two combined, but yet to have in the end, at least in your mind, is a wonderful thing, I think.
We're listening to Little Family by Kelly Joe Phelps from his new album, Western Belle. In tonight's final interview clip, Phelps discusses recording Murdo, another piece from Western Belle, which we'll also hear. We pick up the conversation where Phelps explains his use of consonant and dissonant tones in Murdo.
It pays homage to the chord melody style, the classic jazz chord melody style. Yeah. Yet we're not used to hearing that, on a flat top. We tend to hear the chord melody style, on arch top electric context, and at the same time, you're also introducing this. It's like you've got some parts are so consonant, they just are completely consonant, and some parts are so dissonant, and it's like we can better appreciate each other part by having that context,
Oh, yeah.
So, and you seem to have found a balance, because dissonance, if we listen to Archie Shepp or, some of the hyper-dissonant music, it takes a great deal of concentration to penetrate that.
Yeah, it does, right.
But here, it's kind of like watching, I don't know, if there was a piece of glass that was glinting in the sun, so you get this backward and forward, there's this, if you're moving back and forth, and so you're presenting some consonant sounds, and then here's the dissonance, and then just as soon as we get tied up with the minor seconds, then there's consonant again,
Right.
Is that an improvised tune, or does that also have a melodic theme that you...
No, that one was one of the completely improvised things, which was interesting. And I think that, what you're describing is what we've always referred to as tension and resolution, kind of thing, which can be used a million different ways. And also then that, because it's that kind of chord melody guitar thing, there's, the voice leading becomes important, and working into the consonants or working into the dissonances. And I don't know that. That one kind of sprung out on me. That was more like, again, because I know how to play guitar like that, so so my hands and head kind of know what to do.
Right.
And that one was sort of like if there's one thing in that song, just to continue our conversational theme of, I think if there's one thing in that song that doesn't back down, it's actually the melody line, and that alone. Kind of, there was something about the way that melody started to grow as I was playing it, and take on shape, and that, remembering back, that was kind of the work in finding that piece of music, was being able to focus intently enough on letting that melody go where it wanted to go, and then sort of secondarily to that, having maybe an underlying confidence that I was going to know what to do with whatever happened underneath the melody, as long as I let that melody take care of itself.
Right. So in some ways, maybe I'm simplifying it here or oversimplifying it, but in some ways, Murdo is that line that's leading you is in the melody, and in Western Belle, the line that's leading the song may be down in the bottom range.
Yeah.
And that you kind of have to, in each tune, let find the sort of the alpha part, and trust that you can just go,
Yeah, that's certainly a good way of looking at it.
listening to Kelly Joe Phelps play Murdo, a track from his new album, Western Belle.
Thanks for visiting theguitarshow.com and listening to one of our exclusive interviews. We're adding new ones all the time, so stop back often and check them out. This interview or any portion of it may not be copied without express written permission of The Guitar Show. And thanks again for visiting. You're about to hear an interview segment from a past edition of The Guitar Show with Andy Ellis. Now here's the interview.
Tonight's featured artist is Kelly Joe Phelps, who, in addition to being an ace fingerstyle guitarist,